Hello there. Today I want to show you how to go through and navigate to the water analytics for Parkview Mobile Home Park in Bismarck, North Dakota. So I've created the water analytics tracking for main meter so that we can see on a day-to-day basis what our consumption numbers are, and we can reference them and compare them from one day to the next. They've got a pretty robust system that is pretty seems to be pretty darn accurate. And just wanted to go through navigating to it and then understanding what it is that you're looking at. So in the useful cards list, you'll see there's a water analytics tracking for main meter card. And if you click on it, you will see there's a link to the website as well as the username and the password for the account. So I'm already logged in. And you'll see here, you can see the consumption numbers from one day to the next. Again, pretty neat that we can see here. You see September 30th, and it rolls on through October 11th. So I believe when I talked with the city, they said their system runs roughly a day behind. So normally we see around a 24-hour turnaround on consumption. Now, one thing that is really unique about Bismarck BPU is that they will give us access to their daily consumption, or should I say hour by hour. I think they said it updates roughly around every 30 minutes. In the event that we do have a leak, we can call them and they can see if there was a very high spike in consumption. If we have found a leak and located it and fixed it, we could call them within the first 30 minutes to an hour of fixing the issue. And we can call them and they can tell us whether or not the clocking has lowered. So again, the city seems to be pretty good with helping us audit and understand our day-to-day consumption. Her name was Bernadette. Bernadette would be our point of contact. You would just call BPU direct and then ask for Bernadette. So as you can see here, we've got our day-to-day consumption. And as I'm looking at it, this is the meter 4. If you click on this little spreadsheet icon, you'll see that we've got 2 meters. So Bismarck has 2 sections of the park. One is the NI section, which is Northern Improvement, and the other would be the main section. And I'll give you an understanding of what that looks like. So we'll go. So we will be over here. And let's change it to, can I change the view? Well, this should be sufficient. So the road that is on the west side of Griffin, or the park that is on the west side of Griffin, is the section of the park that is on the meter that is 716. So 716 West Suite, that meter essentially runs and controls this entire section of the property. So Griffin to the west will control all of the homes on this side of the property. So it looks like roughly around, I think there's 14 homes here, and then you've got another maybe 14 homes. So roughly around, say, 30 homes that are attached to the meter on 716 West Suite. So you'll see our consumption on a day-to-day basis is we've got on the 30th, we've got roughly 1,500. Then we're jumped to 1,800, then back down to 1,500. So these are the types of day-to-day consumption levels that you'd like to see, where you've got some up and down. If you just continuously see an upward slope, it normally would be the indication of a leak, or again, just maybe just very high consumption because of a toilet running, or someone just not paying attention to a faucet or something like that. So very critical if you do see a higher consumption than the day before, for instance, 300 gallons from one day to the next here. If we hop over to the next day, we'll see that we're back down to what looks to be around normal consumption numbers. That's really what you want to see. One other thing to really use to our benefit in understanding a leak is this right here. So this, if you click on the bar graph, it actually breaks it down not only by the day, but it breaks it down by the hour. So you'll see here that from 1 a.m. until roughly around 7 a.m., there was zero consumption. If you've got zero consumption on any spreadsheet that you see or any software that you see, that means the park is tight. There's no leaks. Everything is very, very, very tight. You would never see zero consumption if there was even the slightest of leaks. So this is a very good indication that we don't have any leaks. And you actually not only see it in the late hours of the early morning of the day, you'll also see it here in the afternoon, where people are probably still at work. So again, it's great to see the kind of the bell curve to a degree of consumption spiking during normal peak hours and then dropping off when people would either be asleep or out at work. So this again is another tool for us to be able to use and audit when we're doing our meter checks on a day-to-day basis. So to get to the other meter, you will click on this graph icon, and then you'll click on the drop down for what would be 614 West Suite. So now that will update the data to reflect the consumption numbers on the meter to the east side of Griffin. So as you can see here, we've got trailers and homes on the east side of Griffin. So everything from Griffin to the right is now attached to this section of the park. If there's roughly around 20 to 30 homes on the west side of Griffin, there's going to be around 60 to the east side. So just taking that for what it's worth, you should see a higher consumption on the 614 meter as opposed to the other one. So hovering over, you'll see, yeah, we're up to around 6,000 gallons a day on the 30th, and then we jumped up to 7,400, and then we fell back down to 66. Had a little spike at 92, which should be a red flag for you, but within 24 hours we dropped back down. So again, you like to see a little bit of an ebb and flow of our consumption numbers on a day-to-day basis. And then I think the more that we've got a larger sample size of what our consumption is on a day-to-day basis, these numbers will start to make sense. If I were to just calculate what would be an average, here you go, 12-day average, roughly around 7,500 gallons. I think that's probably accurate. So if you take that 7,500 gallons a day times 30 days in a month, 7,500 times 30, we're looking at about a little over 200,000 gallons on a monthly basis. For a park of that size, I deem that to be fairly consistent with what we see across the portfolio of parks that size. So if we add the roughly 200,000 gallons from 614 West Suite and add the average of 1,800 a day times 30 days, 54,000 gallons. So if we add the two together, we'd be under 300,000 gallons for what would be a park of roughly around 85 to 86 lots. Again, fairly consistent with what we're accustomed to seeing. So if we take that, say 280,000 gallons divided by the 85 tenants, looking at about 3,200 gallons a month per resident. And you're going to see some families have more heads in a household, and you're going to see higher consumption there. And then some that would have less, and I'd say averaging around that 3,000 is probably not too far off from normal. With that being said, let's click on the day-to-day, and actually let's scoot back over to 614. Here is the larger section of the park, and you'll see we also hit zeros. Again, a great sign that we don't have a leak. There would definitely be a leak if in the wee hours of the night, around 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning, that you'd start seeing higher consumption numbers here. Not seeing those consumption numbers, seeing a flat line at 0 is a great indicator. So always use that as a kind of point of reference and a little food for thought for when you're doing your audit on your day-to-day consumption numbers. Now, reconciling these numbers, we obviously need somewhere to keep track of this data, especially from an asset manager perspective, and from a project manager vantage point, logging into this system on a daily basis, and then reconciling it to the park water meter reads spreadsheet. I've already populated and updated it for you to very easily indicate where we've got a continuous climb from one day to the next in regards to consumption. So we've got meter on for 614 and the meter on 716. So essentially just track the day. You'll put the daily consumption number in the master read column for both meters, and then it will auto-populate the difference. And if you start seeing a track record of highlight red, highlight red, highlight red, highlight red, which would indicate a increase in consumption from one day to the next, that could be a red flag for you to trigger and alarm your asset manager to know, hey, we've got an issue. Maybe you need to dive a little deeper into this. The best way to do that would be to just right click and comment and tag. So for instance, if you were to tag myself based on what would be cumulative days of increasing consumption, you would just tag John and let him know this is 3 days in a row of higher consumption, and then click on the checkbox and click submit, and that'll trigger a notification to your asset manager so that they know to dive a little deeper. Trying to think if there's anything else from the analytics side. There are notifications that we can trigger when higher consumption numbers are made. Now, the notifications are set up kind of weird. We're getting alerts roughly on a day-to-day basis so far, and I don't think that there's any means for an alert. But again, always kind of tracking this on a day-to-day basis is going to give us a little bit of peace of mind in knowing what our daily consumption is, to see whether or not we've got a leak. Any questions, feel free to reach out, but this is the Bismarck analytics for Parkview Mobile Home Park.